My name is Tim Bray, broker owner of Seaport Real Estate Services in Mystic, Connecticut, BS Real Estate and Urban Economics from Yukon, and I am very excited to present to you the residential real estate transaction. Welcome. The first phase is going to be the sales process. Now, this includes the first interaction with the client, determining their needs, their wants, walking through the property, acknowledging the pros and cons of the property through things like research, your valuation techniques, marketing, right through the negotiation and acceptance of the contract. Now, the second phase is going to be the contract to close phase, and that's going to be from contract inception to the closing. Now, this is an overall view of the transaction deal flow, with the seller's portion of the transaction being on the left-hand side and the buyer's side of the transaction is located on the right-hand side. Now, notice that this form has been hyperlinked with questionnaires, forms, worksheets, checklists, and other documents that will keep you on point throughout the transaction. Maybe the most important aspect of this chart are the yellow note tabs that notify the agent when to change the deal stage. And this is within our contact management system, which guides all the parties and helps them to navigate the process seamlessly. These stages are designed to help the agent and client stay on task, communicate effectively, and increase the chances of an enjoyable experience. And here at Seaport, we use Follow-Up Boss as our guide. So let's start on the seller side. And as you can see, there are a few extra steps that we at Seaport integrate, which definitely differentiate us from the pack and make us true fiduciaries in my eyes. We're interviewing the seller as much as the seller is interviewing us. We're asking them a lot of questions, and we're trying to determine if this seller is a good candidate for our process. Can we actually get the job done for them? Is this the right time for them to sell? So upon our initial meeting at the home, the very first time, we are looking at the structure of the home, the layout, the finishes, and we're trying to add as much value as we possibly can. After all, we are advisors helping to protect the interest of this potential client. Now, most agents will tell the seller what they want to hear, as they feel that this will give them a better chance at securing the listing. And we believe that our candor is going to help the seller make good decisions and take the necessary actions to get their home sold for more money and in a faster time frame. And that includes going in and looking at that home through the eyes of a buyer and trying to foresee issues that will hold the sale back. So after viewing the home and interviewing the seller, we're going to research the property online. And we're going to pull the property card. We're going to look for open permits. We're going to read the deed, the covenants and restrictions, and the Schedule A. We're looking for those things that could hurt the chances of sale. We're then putting together a competitive market analysis or a sales comparison approach, which is often utilized by a real estate appraiser in helping to determine the current fair market value. The next step in the valuation process is a game changer in my mind. We're going to utilize a proprietary system called Market Pulse, which is designed to help the seller answer some critical questions in decision making. Number one, is the property in a price range that is controlled by the buyer or the seller? Number two is how many months of inventory are there in this price range? Number three is when they purchased the home originally, did they overpay or underpay? And Market Pulse is designed to help us understand that. Number four, how does their neighborhood historically perform in regard to the town in which it's located? So what we're going to do is we're going to look back at every home sale since 1999, and we're going to expose trends and patterns that are going to help give us insight that's unavailable in the marketplace. After we've done this, we're going to present our findings and determine if we believe that the seller should sell, rent, hold, or auction the property. Now it's our job to go over the listing paperwork and explain how we're going to position them in the marketplace so that they can be as competitive as possible. We're going to provide them with the state mandated disclosures and give them some research assignments that are going to be packaged together into a digital property packet that's going to be disseminated to all agents in the entire marketplace, and it's going to help their property to stand out. And of course, we're going to include professional photography, any aerial work that's deemed necessary, 3D tours, and as many other approaches that we need to, depending on the property that we're marketing. So properly entering the property into the MLS is absolutely critical. And the way that I look at it is the MLS is very similar to the hub of a wagon wheel, in which the data that we enter, which in essence are the attributes of the home, are disseminated throughout all the different spokes. And these spokes are websites in which buyers are searching for homes. So each property really deserves a specific marketing strategy and plan depending on its location, the condition, the competition that's out there, and their price range. Let's move over to the buy side, where there are a few more moving parts. So each one of these parts is extremely important. So make sure that we follow the deal flow and you don't skip any steps at all. That's usually where agents start getting into trouble when it comes to the buy side of the transaction. Now, initially, the first thing that we're going to do when making contact with the buyer is ask them a series of questions. And this can be done over the phone or through a questionnaire, as you see in the sheet. And this is going to help us to understand the buyer's needs, their wants, and how viable they are. Are they a candidate to buy a property? So we're going to need to determine how long they plan on owning the property, how much they plan to put down, where we are currently in the real estate cycle, and the risk that they're exposed to because of that when they purchase. So if we feel that they're going to be a good fit, then we're going to move forward to the next stage. And if they're a first-time home buyer, then we're going to ask them to fill out an affordability worksheet, which is going to undoubtedly make them uncomfortable, but it's going to open their eyes to how much they can truly afford. The affordability worksheet is very comprehensive, and it's going to force them to take almost a forensic look at their income and their spending habits and give them a level of financial transparency that they most likely have not seen before. If they haven't already spoken with a local reputable lender, then we're going to ask them to do so at this time. We're going to advise them as to why it's important to have a pre-qualification or pre-approval prior to going out and actually looking at properties. So the next step for them is to actually contact that lender. The lender is going to do the application. At that point, they're going to either be pre-approved for a certain amount or they're going to be unable to qualify, whether it's because of their debt-to-income ratio being too high, maybe credit scores aren't high enough, they didn't have enough money to close, or many other reasons. So if they're unable to qualify because of any of those reasons, then it's time to come up with a plan. Most lenders are more than capable and happy to help devise a plan to repair credit, obtain a cosign, or maybe pay off credit cards, work on their debt to income ratios, or whatever it may be causing them not to qualify. But we as fiduciaries need to come up with a plan and put them on a sort of nurture campaign through our contact management system and make sure that the lender is staying on top of them and that they're moving towards their credit worthiness goals so that we can work with them in the future. Now, if they do qualify right off the bat, the lender is going to give a pre-approval letter. And it's very important that we have that pre-approval letter in hand prior to going out and searching. So the next step from there, and we have a pre-approval letter at this time. We've done our comprehensive buyer interview, so we know exactly what they're looking for. And We know how much they're qualified for. So now, never, ever take them out looking at properties above a price range what they're qualified for, because you're just going to end up disappointing the buyer at that point, and they're going to become frustrated and they're not going to buy anything, and they're going to resent you as well. So at this time, we'll ask them to sign an agency agreement with us so that we can truly advise them. And after signing this agreement, just know that we owe them care, obedience, accounting, loyalty, and disclosure. We never take a client out looking at properties without a signed buyer agreement and without a pre-approval or pre-qualification. It's just something that we do not do. So at this point in time, we're going to set our clients up on an automated search so that they are receiving properties as they come onto the market. We're also going to send them a batch of homes that have previously been listed that are within their parameters and their price range. And without a doubt, they're going to send us a list of those homes, probably in the form of MLS numbers or addresses. And we're going to, at that time, strategically go through all of those homes online, and we're going to eliminate as many as we possibly can. Now, you're thinking, why the heck would you do that? You just ask them to send you homes. And, it's our job to look out for that buyer. And one of the things that we do is we value their time and ours as well. So we're going to eliminate the homes that are, let's say, next to a nuclear power plant, under high tension wires. Maybe it's next to a really loud racetrack. Perhaps it's a dump, or maybe it's a home that's located on a busy road, and previously they'd expressed that they have pets, young children, and don't want to be on a highly trafficked road. So I once had a client who told me that he didn't want to buy a home unless he could go to the bathroom in the front yard, open the door in the back, go to the bathroom there, and not be seen by a neighbor. So, got it. I understand what you're looking for. You're looking for a rural setting with no neighbors. So, while physically viewing these properties, we're silently taking notes in regard to the property's condition, the well-appointed features. We're comparing our notes to the disclosures that were provided, most likely online by the seller, but sometimes those are left by the listing agent. And we're never, ever going to voice our opinions about the property and its deficiencies in front of the listing agent, as it's going to take away our ability to negotiate after the inspections are complete, should we want to purchase that property. It's time to move on to the next phase, which is the contract to close phase. Now, things start to move extremely quickly from here, and there are many moving parts. And the main thing to remember is that contract, after it's executed, is sent over to the paralegal or attorney. The loan approval process begins, home inspections are set up, and the appraisal, which is part of the loan process, is scheduled as well. Now, we're going to break that down here real quick so you have a good understanding. So as soon as the contract is accepted, you're going to submit it to the paralegal and attorney as well as the lender so you can get started with the loan approval process. Now, from there, once the loan officer has that contract in hand, they're going to be responsible for ordering the appraisal. The appraisal is going to be conducted about a week or so of it being ordered, and the appraiser is going to schedule a showing of the property with the listing agent. As the listing agent, I highly recommend that you provide the appraiser with the property packet or something similar, which is going to include the deed, the Schedule A, as well as a list of upgrades made to the home since it was purchased. At Seaport, we have a specific protocol that is used to protect the client. Okay, now the loan is going to go through processing where the mortgage underwriter is going to make sure that all of those things that were submitted during the pre-approval process are accurate, such as the W-2s, the pay stubs, tax returns, K-1s, etc. So they're going to make sure that the credit scores of the buyer are good. The debt to income ratios fit the guidelines for the particular lending program that they've chosen. And of course, we need to make sure that they have enough funds to close. Now, if you represent the buyer, then you're going to be ordering the home inspections, which could include the pumping of the septic, maybe a pool inspection, chimney, water tests, on and on and on. Now, please take note that you will most likely only have between 10 and 14 days to complete the inspections from the date the contract is accepted. Now, words of wisdom: the buyer and buyer's agent are present at the home inspection, and most definitely the seller is not present. Occasionally, the seller's agent will be present, but you need to pass that by the buyer's agent first. Now, the inspection company is going to be looking for structural, mechanical, and safety issues, and if they're good, they're going to be making recommendations for remediation, or maybe a professional in that trade that can be of service. Now, after receiving the reports and the inspections complete, the buyer and the agent will have 5 days to ask the seller to remediate the issues or just move forward with the home as is. Needless to say, negotiations are going to take place until an agreement has been made. At this point, the buyers are going to contact their insurance company and start the homeowner's insurance process. The buyer's agent, and this is a rock star move, will reach out to the attorney or paralegal and let them know that the inspections have been safely navigated and that they can start the title search. So the buyers are going to need to make a decision whether or not to buy title insurance. And just remember that regular homeowners insurance is designed to protect a homeowner from future occurrences, and title insurance protects the owner and the lender from previous liens, encumbrances, and defects with the title. So assuming that the appraisal has come back fine, the inspections have been navigated, and the underwriter gives the buyer the green light, mortgage commitment is going to be issued. Right around 10 days before the scheduled closing date, the listing agent is going to go to the property and take the readings of the fuel levels. So unless you've otherwise negotiated, the buyer is going to be responsible for repayment at the time of closing. Finally, they're going to issue a loan approval and clear to close. And the walkthrough typically takes place right before the closing. And it's the buyer's agent who is responsible for protecting their client and making sure that all the utilities are functioning and the agreed upon work has been completed and you have receipts. So we have a very specific protocol here at Seaport when working with buyers to assure the protection of them. And that starts with going to that home and working from the top down. And by top down, I mean top floor down into the basement. And there is a specific laundry list of things that we do to make sure that our clients do not have issues after the closing with this property due to an existing problem that may have taken place between the time frame in which the seller moved out and that house has been vacant. So it's very important that we adhere to all of the stipulations and the dates in the contract so that all the parties are on the same page. Communication between all parties will assure that the transaction runs as smooth as possible. And I can't overemphasize that enough. Communication is the key to a smooth transaction. Now, from time to time, there may be obstacles that we need to overcome, and the closing date will need to be extended, and we'll work on the paperwork for that and amendments should that happen. Finally, we're ready to close, and the lender sends over all of the documents and requirements to the attorney. And typically, the buyer, the seller, and the agent show up to the buyer's attorney's office to sign the documents and exchange the keys and the garage door openers. Unfortunately, COVID has changed the landscape a bit, and agents haven't been present at the closing. And this concludes the transaction. Hopefully, buyer and seller get to the next chapter of their lives, and the agents are paid for a job well done.